4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright guys, this is set 2, game 2 of the best of 5 series, the MSL Finals 2008 on Othello. This game is being played between Jaedong and ForGG. ForGG surprisingly taking the first game. I have to say, Jaedong seems to be trying a little too hard. He's trying to be creative and outthink his opponent. He doesn't need to. If he had played a standard game there, I think he would have probably come out on top and beaten ForGG. Let's hope he decides to stick to his guns a little bit more. I'm not sure if ForGG has the guts to do something really crazy and outrageous against a Zerg player of Jaedong's caliber, and I think Jaedong could have possibly banked on that. But so far, in the mind games, in the psychological warfare between these two players, ForGG seems to be the one coming out on top. He's making Jaedong go for something unorthodox. The funny thing is, if Jaedong went for an overpull in this game, he would be much more likely to be successful because of the starting positions. Jaedong at the 1 o'clock position and ForGG at the 11 o'clock position. This map, though, is supposedly favored for the Terran player, so it'll be interesting to see if Jaedong can pull it back here or if he's going to find himself 2-0 down and staring down the barrel.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by the results of Game 1. I think Jaedong is at his best when he plays as the macro Zerg that he is so good at. Earlier in his career, when he won the last MSL, I think he won it pretty much out of pure macro. And ForGG really has surprised me a lot in this first game here. I thought it would be a blowout, to be honest. I thought it was 3-0 or 3-1 because I hadn't seen any of ForGG's play against Zerg, and so many people have doubted him throughout his entire path at the MSL so far. At first, people just said he was only good against Protoss. And he did play a very, very exciting series against Cal, by the way, I think in the round of 8. So check that out if you haven't. I think Diggity did a commentary of it. It was excellent. Looks like Jaedong actually sending 2 drones out, I think, just to get his 12 hatchery up. It looks like he will get that expansion hatchery, and he'll send 1 more drone out to scout. Smart move there, sending that 2nd drone just to attack any SCV that was trying to block the hatchery. But yeah, I mean, I'm very surprised that ForGG managed to win the first game. I think it was, as you said, more Jaedong's mistake than ForGG's brilliance that cost him that ended in that result. And looks like ForGG is actually going for a 2-racks build here, so he's going for a fast rush build here against Jaedong. Jaedong going for a standard 12 hatchery and then spawning pool. I don't think ForGG is in a position to do any kind of bunker rush or anything, but certainly he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Jaedong. And let's see if Jaedong manages to scout this. If he doesn't scout this, Jaedong could be in a bit of trouble if Jaedong decides to go for some kind of very heavy macro build, and as he usually does, neglect building Zerglings. And so it's pretty ironic. In this game, perhaps we're going to see a turning of the tables for ForGG going for a rush and Jaedong playing the econ game here. But this is going to set ForGG back if he doesn't succeed in this rush, and we have seen Jaedong handle rushes very well, so I have high prospects for Jaedong in this game.
I have to completely and utterly disagree with you. I think Jaedong has done one thing very clever, and the other thing he's done is made a big mistake. The clever thing is that he maneuvered, or I think his overlord spotted the first racks, and then he circled his overlord around towards the south of the map, so that it would seem like his overlord was coming from the south, and he's managed to successfully deceive ForGG in that regard. So ForGG is going to be a little bit later in scouting, but once he gets his SCV in that base and sees nothing in it, he's going to immediately know that Jaedong is actually at the 1 o'clock position. Looks like ForGG is now starting up his command center after putting up 2 racks, but I think the mistake that Jaedong made is that his overlord, unfortunately for him, didn't spot the 2nd racks. I think he only spotted the 1st barracks, and that's why he might actually end up getting caught a little bit off guard. I'm not sure why ForGG has, after going for the 2-racks build, started his command center up, started his expansion. Maybe that's to deceive Jaedong, because Jaedong might think it's 1-racks into CC build, when in fact it's a 2-racks build, and if he can keep that overlord away, he might be able to get a rush going. Significantly, he has not taken his refinery either. He has not taken his Vespene Geyser, so therefore, he's not going to have a medic marine, so he's not really going to be able to rush against Jaedong, and so I think Jaedong is actually, initially I thought he was going to be in a lot of trouble, but I think Jaedong is actually going to be in a semi-decent position. He's also going to get his first sunken up. Looks like ForGG just sending maybe an SCV and a couple of Marines to do a little bit of harassment, but Jaedong has got a couple of Zerglings and sunken. So this game seems to be well balanced right now. ForGG now coming in with 4 Marines. I think Jaedong should be just about able to defend this. Sunken coming up just in time to ward off ForGG. Maybe that was just to put a little bit of pressure on, but ForGG might have handicapped himself slightly here, and a very early engineering bay going up for ForGG, so maybe we are going to see that 1+1 upgrade. He's now got the refinery up, so I think we might be seeing some sort of a Marine. I think ForGG has put up that expansion to deceive Jaedong about his technical ambitions, and I think he might catch Jaedong completely off guard here.
I have to kind of disagree with you that I actually think that was just a poor opening, to be honest. Two racks into command center isn't really a very efficient build for rushing or for econ. I mean, I don't see ForGG taking any kind of advantage here. In fact, I think he's slightly behind. Although I won't say it's very behind because Jaedong has not managed to do any sort of attack. But I'm not sure exactly what ForGG's intentions were. Now he's got a force of about 8 or 9 Marines, but that's not going to be able to break one sunken, 2 sunkens now, and a handful of Zerglings will be able to take that out. So while ForGG looked like he was about to go for a rush, the moment he put down his command center, I guess he just gave up on the rush, or perhaps he was hoping that Jaedong would do something crazy like go 3 hatchery before spawning pool or something like that. But perhaps seeing that Jaedong had gotten a standard 12 hatch up, he decided not to go for a quick rush with those 2 racks. But yeah, I mean, now I think the game's pretty even. 4GG certainly did manage to hide that second barracks, although by now I think the difference is completely pointless and academic at this point because the builds are pretty much converging to what we would have done before. Jaedong with a Spire going up, and looks like he's going to kill this scouting SCV. I think 4GG is going to play a fairly standard Medic Marine game here, and since he's probably going to scan Jaedong, he probably will start putting turrets up. I do hope that Jaedong plays as well as he's wont to do, and gets his third expansion up right after his Spire goes up, then gets those lurkers that he's so good at using, and just plays a standard game and really tests 4GG. I don't feel like 4GG was tested last game. I think if Jaedong plays at his macro style, at what he's best at, that would be a true test of whether 4GG can handle a top-notch Zerg.
Yeah, the critical thing for me is that really early engineering bay. That's what threw me off. I thought maybe 4GG was trying to deceive Jaedong. I guess in the end, I was trying to give him more credit than he deserved, and maybe it was just a bad opening. But that engineering bay is what really confounded me. He's now getting the turrets up. It was far too early for any sort of mutalisks. He's now starting to get those turrets up. So the engineering bay was far too early, and I just thought that maybe he was trying to get the +1 upgrade and trying to get some sort of early rush going. But he's definitely got that early engineering bay up, and maybe in the longer term that might play into his hand. He's now just going to get a quick and decent micro by 4GG, getting the into position quickly and taking that overlord out that Jaedong had positioned. Jaedong, I think, regardless of whether or not Jaedong has scouted that, I think the main thing about 4GG is that he has. Maybe he's doing a jack of all trades build here because he's got a decent sized medic and marine force with that 2 racks opening. He's been able to get a largest medic and marine force out, which is going to allow him to have, I think, 2 medic and marine forces. One to actually push out and put the pressure and prevent Jaedong from getting that third expansion down, and the second medic and marine force to stay in his base and defend those turrets. And those turrets are going up just in time, and that might also be the purpose of the early engineering bay to get those upgrade ups to allow him to do that. So you can see that he's got 1 medic and marine force knocking at Jaedong's door, while he's got enough medic and marine still in his base to actually defend against the mutalisks in combination with the turrets, and that's why he probably went for that 2 early racks to try and get that up, and therefore he's going to be able to deny Jaedong the third expansion with that second medic and reinforce because Jaedong is going to struggle to actually keep the harass going. He might actually, Jaedong's got the Hydra stand up as well, so Jaedong might actually be forced to pull his Mutalist back if his opponent can see that. But unfortunately for GG, he was anticipating the off expansion to be used by Jaedong, but it's actually, Jaedong has actually gone for his third expansion at the bottom right-hand corner of the map at the 4 o'clock base. Now Jaedong using his Mutalist to try and harass that advanced force of 4GG's, which he's managed to keep alive. He's lost a couple of Marines. Jaedong coming in to try and pick off another Marine, not able to do so. So 4GG staying ever vigilant here, and it's just a matter of him scouting. He has to know that Jaedong's got that other expansion down there. Jaedong sending the Hydra list out to try and get some lurkers in play. If 4GG can kill this expansion, that's going to just completely change the course of this game. Jaedong forced to sacrifice his Mutalist almost to try and do that, and consequently he's doing no damage to 4GG's economy, and 4GG I think has already got 5 or 6 racks up and running, and now Jaedong's Hydras are going to get interrupted, but Jaedong managed to come in with the Zerglings and the Mutalists. He's actually going to take out this Medic and Marine Force and get those lurkers up, but 4GG with those extra racks is already pushing out with another large force of Medic and Marines, and I think he might be able to break this defense of Jaedong and take that expansion down before it can really get solid.
Yeah, I think so too. I think definitely 4GG by now has known that this is in position. Looks like he's actually going to intercept these lurkers, and he might do a lot of damage here. He's going to force Jaedong to use his Mutalisks and get those costly Mutalisks in harm's way here, and I think Jaedong's going to lose a couple of his units either way. It looks like he loses 1 lurker just after it's done morphing, and now this lurker is stranded in the middle of nowhere. It's not going to be in position to help defend against an attack coming towards the southeast. Meanwhile, I think the Korean person they were focusing on could have been Jaedong's brother, actually. It looked quite similar to Jaedong. Anyway, just throwing that out there. But it looks like 4G definitely knows here, and he is going to be moving that largest force down to the lower right. Jaedong is just putting up a creep colony right now, and now he's got Mulisks in the air over there, but his lurker is in a bad position. I'm surprised that Jaedong doesn't have some sort of reserve force there. Perhaps to try to do some sort of flank. Savior back in his day often did that. When the Terran moved out with his medic marines, he left like a force of maybe 12 Zerglings, 16 Zerglings, maybe a lurker or two, and he would just go into an attack on his opponent's base. Of course, Jaedong at this point has not had the force to do so, so he won't be able to take the initiative that way. And I think Jaedong has basically just sacrificed the initiative by not going for that Mutalisk harass, as you said. He did absolutely nothing with the Mutalisks, and the purpose of getting Mutalisks for the Zerg is to do a harassment and to keep the Terran player back in his base, and Jaedong unfortunately didn't manage to do either with these Mutalisks. Jaedong now polishing off this medic marine force that was challenging him down here, but at the cost of perhaps one or two more Mutalisks, and I believe that ForGG's expansion should have helped him get his macro up pretty well now. He's already got a science facility coming up, so again going for a relatively fast tech here after a 2 barracks opening, and this is definitely turning out to be an exciting match here in the second game, although I do think that at this point they're basically neck and neck. I don't see either of them having an advantage.
Yeah, it's really hard to discern advantage because on the one hand, ForGG has kept the pressure on Jaedong, killed a lot of his Mutalisks without taking any damage whatsoever to his economy, and so is in a decent position. On the other hand, Jaedong has managed to get that third expansion up and going. Usually that third expansion is the critical expansion for Zerg players. If Zerg players can get that up and going and keep it alive for long enough to really get their tech up and going, then it becomes very difficult for an opponent to break them. On the other hand, we do have the factor that ForGG did have a relatively large medic and marine force earlier, and he's got a lot of barracks up. Jaedong now just trying to get some lurkers out in the middle of the map. This is going to be critical here. Jaedong loses most of his lurkers. Jaedong also has a couple of scourges. He's lost all of his Mutalisks, and ForGG with the decent surround on the lurkers is going to pick off most of these lurkers. Jaedong now running with the lurkers, so Jaedong has lost a lot of his force there. And again, I think a lot of this is down to ForGG. I think has come up with a unique and innovative build. I don't think necessarily it was a bad opening. Maybe it was a rush opening that didn't work. On the other hand, I think that maybe his intention all along with those 2 racks, maybe he changed his mind after he saw that Overlord as his SE was going out of his base. Maybe he thought that Jaedong had scouted the 2 racks and would be ready for it, and that's why he immediately put on the command center. That's what I would be guessing would be the reason for his change of strategy, unless he decided all along. But I think luckily enough for him, what the 2 racks has allowed him to do is keep pressure up on Jaedong right from the start and inflict damage on Jaedong's forces. Now he's got the siege tanks out. Strangely enough, he hasn't gone for a science vessel at all. He should be getting a science vessel out at the moment. Jaedong is just going to try and delay him a little bit with those lurkers. I wonder if they're in a hold position, but ForGG seems to have a sixth sense about where those lurkers might be positioned, because he's actually not gone into a danger area. Now he might be just coming within range of the lurkers, but now he's got the science vessel out as well. Jaedong, unfortunately, losing his Mutalisks and his initial Scourges, because those Mutalisks would have really helped him to take that science vessel out now, and Jaedong just trying to buy himself time to get those lurkers down, kill a couple of those medic and Marines. Just, unfortunately for Jaedong, he's still, I think, miles away from getting that those defilers out, and ForGG is going to be able to lay some siege to him, and Jaedong is going to try and do a little bit of a flanking maneuver here. The problem is he doesn't have too many Zerglings to back those lurkers up that are coming in behind ForGG's force, and ForGG is just trying to get within range of the Sunken. Jaedong's done a good job of delaying him, but ForGG is going to be able to put a decent amount of pressure on Jaedong's base, and Jaedong, and now he's actually spotted the lurkers behind his lines as well. Jaedong trying to cut off his reinforcements, and Jaedong once again trying to push ForGG out, bringing the Scourges out. ForGG keeping that science vessel alive. Jaedong can take that science vessel out. That's going to be absolutely critical, but ForGG focusing the Scourges long enough to take the science vessel out. ForGG's got his tanks and medic and marines spread out, and Jaedong, I think, might have made a mistake by coming out here because he's lost most of his defensive forces, and ForGG is going to get right up to that sunken line now and start sieging it. But Jaedong still has bought himself a little bit of time to get those defilers out. The question is if he'll be able to get them out in time or not.
Oh my goodness, how the hell did Jaedong lose that battle? He had so many lurkers and lose it so badly. I'm actually really amazed by that. I think it was because ForGG managed to, with a sixth sense, as you said, find those 3 lurkers going behind. He just basically was looking for them, out hunting for them, knowing that Jaedong would try to come up with a flank. And now looks like the front base is almost completely breached for Jaedong. He's lost all of his sunken colonies. Medic Marines going in here, and I think it was also because ForGG's his second force there, his reinforcements arrived just in the middle of battle, just in time to prevent Jaedong from getting an effective swarm surround on. Wow, Jaedong GG is he lost his natural expansion. There was no way back for him. But really quick game there. I thought the end game would have taken much longer. I thought there would have been a long game there. But Jaedong looks like he was far away from getting Hive, as you said. And that counterattack just didn't work out. I was really surprised by how many casualties he took there, and how he didn't manage to kill all the tanks. I mean, I just don't know what happened there, but it was a definite Zerg slaughter, and 4GG somehow is up 2-0, and we're going into Tiamat, which is 4-0 Terran versus Zerg, by the way. Zerg has not won so far in Tiamat, and I'm just shocked by the course of events here.
Yeah, tough game for Jaedong to lose. He looked like he was neck and neck with ForGG there for a while, but he lost a couple of critical battles to ForGG. And again, I mean, I don't know what that build was, whether it was luck or weirdness or what, but it seemed to work very well for ForGG because he had his push at Jaedong's front door, and Jaedong had yet to get his defilers up and running. And I'm not sure what the factor was, what the reasoning behind it was, whether it was the map or I think Jaedong did lose a couple of critical battles, those early 3 lurkers that he lost, and the fact that he lost a lot of forces to 4GG's initial offensive medic and marine forces in order to keep that hatchery alive. He did manage to keep the hatchery alive, but the fact that he didn't do any damage to 4GG's economy, and 4GG did have his medic and marines upgraded fairly early. I think that's what really helped him win those battles because he had that engineering bay up very early on. He had a second engineering bay put down as well, and he was upgrading. Now, I didn't check the exact upgrades. I'm not sure of the exact upgrades, but I think that that's probably what swung it in 4GG's favor and allowed him to win that critical battle, is that he probably had upgraded medic and marines, and Jaedong probably didn't have any upgrades whatsoever.
Yeah, and I like how he he did not go for the standard SK build and go for just science vessels and medic marines. In both games, he's actually gone for siege tanks as the sort of intermediate step, or even as the end game step against dealing with lurkers and ultralisks. Usually, the Terran player only uses siege tanks, perhaps briefly, to ward off the lurker threat, and then goes back to medic marines for the additional mobility, and then mass science vessels. But 4GG, I think, was wise in foregoing the pure SK Terran build and getting all those tanks. They certainly served him well. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Absolutely surprising course of events so far. And I think it's actually up to Jaedong to pull something out, mainly because the third map is Tiamat. That is the map with the neutral buildings where the Terran can flank so easily, and it's just gonna be so hard for Jaedong to win now. And what do you think?
Yeah,
What do you think of confidence level?
yeah, Jaedong has to be shaking in his boots, and the fact that it's Tiamat, it's looking really bad for him. It could be the result that no one predicted, which would be 3-0 for 4GG. But I think in the game too, it was just almost a standard tank push with science vessels and marines, and Jaedong for some reason just wasn't ready for it. I think the early engineering bay upgrades are what made the difference in that game.
Yeah, I agree. That is a very good point. Yeah, very surprising. And really impressive play from 4GG, I have to say. I think in the first game you could perhaps say Jaedong lost that game, but the second game 4GG definitely won, and I'm very impressed. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean
that's pretty much all I have to
the
say.
weird thing
Yeah.
is, sorry, the weird thing I want to say about that is that you don't usually see a Terran player going 2 racks to start with, the Zerg player going 12 hatch, and the Zerg player and the 2 racks kind of build not really leading to an effective rush on the Zerg player, and the Terran player still winning the game. Because really, if a Terran player goes 2 racks to start with and doesn't do any damage early on to the Zerg player, doesn't affect a significant amount of damage, the Zerg should be in prime position to win the game. And yet he didn't. And again, I guess I have to just come back to that. I think that engineering bay was what made the difference. But you've got to give a lot of credit to 4GG for that.